Good evening, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another episode of Hightop Sports. I had this crazy dream that the Florida Gators allowed Jayden Daniels to rush for over 500 and pass for over 500 yards, and the defense gave up 700 yards. It was crazy. It was like a nightmare. No, that actually happened yesterday. First time in history, the Florida defense allowed 700 yards to the LSU Tigers. I think 500 of it went to Jayden Daniels, 200 on the ground, 200 plus in the air. I mean, what can that guy not do, right? If there was a Heisman game that he needed, there it was. Massive game there from Jayden Daniels. But we're going to talk all things Florida football today. And then Jimbo Fisher getting fired. What does that mean for the Florida Gators? There's some recruits that we've been looking at, we've been talking to for quite some time. We're going to talk about kind of just poaching that team to see if there's any possibility, given the fact that we lost a edge rusher yesterday, Jamonte Waller, to the Auburn Tigers. So we got a lot of pick up the pieces to do at first thing this morning. And Jimbo Fisher kind of opened the door a little bit, hopefully, for us to allow us to do that some more. So we're going to talk about that. And then Coach Billy had a comment to say about Austin Armstrong and how he felt the defense was ran. I'll kind of let you know what the writer says. It's hard to hear what he says. Finally, it was like he was just tired of asking in a very political way. He just said, hey, Austin Armstrong, what's going on? Defense sucked. In so many words, right? It's hard to hear what he says, but that's basically what he asked. And Coach Billy Napier, he addresses it. But then last night, we have a call-in show almost every game. I don't think we missed one, maybe one game, where we have the fans call in, win or lose, and give us their thoughts and opinions and feelings. Obviously, the wins are much more fun because we're just screaming and yelling at each other, saying, how about them? But when we lose, there's always a different pulse. You never know what you're going to get. The comment section's always a blast. But the fans last night were optimistically positive. I was kind of shocked. I don't think we had a negative call for most feelings of the Gator Nation. Now, look at this is just a small sample size here, people. So let's not get it twisted. But we had about, I would say, 15 to 25 calls, maybe give or take. And for the majority of them, they all felt, hey, the game played well, right? They felt like things went the right direction. And I said the same thing. Like, it's weird because I kept saying the first half of the game, I'm like, man, I feel good. Right? Like, we all understand, like, hey, LSU's going to go out there and do LSU things. We all knew that it was going to be a daunting task to take down LSU in Death Valley at night. They haven't lost there in five night games, right? It's going to be a daunting task to win in Baton Rouge, in Death Valley on the road at night. So that was all understanding. But then we came out there and we looked good. We had heart. We just looked clean. Everything looked like we were playing good football. We had a special teams turnover on the kickoff. We're like, okay, here we go. We had a big 4th and goal stop. All of a sudden, things were going the right direction for Florida Gators, right? The luck was going in our favor, right? So we didn't have any shoe throwing. We were getting a little chippy, which I love, kind of punching around a little bit, getting people's faces like, all right, here we go. We're fired up. We're fired up to be here. And it felt really good. Unfortunately, the stat line doesn't show that, right? At the end of the game, the fourth quarter, the last 14 minutes of the game, LSU had their way with us, putting up over 200. I don't know how many yards they put up in the fourth quarter, but damn near probably put up all 700 of them, felt like. Because that's how the game went, right? Got completely out of hand. I mean, up into the fourth quarter, it was 35-38. We were right there looking for an opportunity to get it done. And just could not make a stop. So I don't think the fans were wrong in their feeling because, again, for the first time in a long time, it felt that the team played well for more of the game than not. Usually, we're playing, it's a sloppy football and we're trying to figure out a way. Because think about it, if we would have played like this the first 3 quarters against Arkansas, the game wouldn't have been close. And that was, again, my thing was that team did not look like, that against Arkansas. And again, on the road, we look exceptionally better than we did at home the week prior to that. So those were some things that were promising. Obviously, the defense getting just torched every which way. And this is the first time, in my opinion, watching this, it didn't feel like it was coaching. And I'll get into that when I talk about Billy Napier. Coaching is still the overall issue, so let's not don't be grabbing the pitchforks on me here. But it just felt like we were just outmanned. We just felt like we were just out-bullied, out-talented. It did not matter what we could have had the best defensive player caller in the country. I don't think it would have mattered. We couldn't get through anybody. One-on-one didn't matter. They had our number, and we were outmanned. Look, I think a lot of it was to do the defense was tired. Obviously, being a young team, that's going to be something that we experience. We talked about with Shannon Snell of like, look, the talent's there, but it's the experience, it's the endurance, the conditioning of somebody who's been playing for 2 years versus 1 year, right? So I think that at one point there was 6 or 7 freshmen on the football field out of 11 guys on the defense. I mean, that's a very young team, and that's something we keep preaching on. What does that mean? Is that good, bad, or ugly? I also said this last night. I said, look, the biggest factor we need to focus on, because Gator fans, we're not patient. We all know that. Look at the comments. Just listen to anybody, what they're saying here. Nobody's going to sit around and wait for this thing to turn itself around. It needs to start turning itself around as soon as possible. I don't care how many times you want to preach patience. I agree with you that you have to have some sort of patience. But the biggest fact, I think the biggest thing that we can all agree on is that we need to see some progress in the right direction. So the portal, he has to be extremely aggressive in the portal. On defense, offensively, the O-line could use a little juice for sure. They played exceptional last night, in my opinion. I think they played way better than they have been. They were shuffling things around a little bit. Damian George still had his struggles, but for the most part, guys really stepped up. Cam Waits, his first game, he had some penalties, obviously, but he was getting some more playing time. He looked good. Austin Barber starting to find his rhythm a little bit. Jake Slaughter at center, it seemed that he took over that job from Kingsley. So it's coming together, but we could definitely use some more pieces there. So that's where I think Billy's going to have to make some massive moves, because although this recruiting class is looking healthy, even though we did lose Jamonte Waller, it's still a healthy recruiting class. That's not going to make an immediate impact, because that's what? We're going to be in the same boat next year. Well, look how young our team is. Look at all the talent on the football field. We can't just keep saying that. So we have the ability to go into a transfer portal like a free agency and pick and pluck what we want. We got to go be like Mike Norvell and Lane Kiffin and Lincoln Riley, how active they were in the transfer portal. And now with Jimbo Fisher heading out, there's a ton of talent sitting on a Texas A&M team that may be open to be poached. Now, who knows? Texas A&M's got to act quickly, I would think, to bring in a new coach so he can try to maintain what they've already have in place there. But Texas A&M doesn't have anything short of money. So with NIL deals and whatnot, I don't think they're going to be just falling out of the tree at Texas A&M like people think they will. But I do want to play a video here. Terrell, he's a longtime caller here on this show. We actually clipped his video last week because of how great his calling was. And he actually sums up a lot of this once again of how we all felt. Because when he came on, everyone said, hey, he took the words right out of my mouth. And there's a particular play that he mentions that I said the same exact thing that really frustrates me and concerns me about Billy. Here's what he had to say.
This is what I'll say. I was not truly disappointed in tonight's performance, right? The defense, like, we went into this game knowing that our defense was not going to stop Jaden Daniels and LSU. Like, I'm assuming everybody knew that, right? Like, sure. We got killed by KJ Jefferson in the fourth. Did you really expect us to stop LSU tonight? No. The offense was hit or miss. Like, I felt like we could use Trey Wilson a lot more. I feel like he goes 3 to 4 series, he doesn't get a touch. Or he just runs the jet motions just to be a decoy, and there's nothing else. The running game was spectacular, better than I expected it to be. Maybe, like I said, maybe like some other callers and you stated, LSU just has a bad defense, right? Maybe that's just what it is, and we just need to acknowledge that. This may just be an aberration. We may play Missouri and be like, okay, LSU's just bad. No reason LSU-Missouri game was so close. And my most important point of tonight, I mean, I'm not going to harp on the defense. If we get a new DC, we don't. Like you stated, we need to hit the portal. We need to do all of those things. That's very true. The most disheartening thing about tonight was the last 2 minutes in the first half. You know you're going into an environment where the team can score. You know, it's like if we play LSU in 2019, Dan Mullen had the perfect game plan. Every time we need to score, we scored, right? You see what I'm saying? We knew we couldn't stop Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, all those guys. But he kept the defense at bay as much as he could, gave him rest and needed, but he knew he needed to score, go score for score. Tonight, what disappointed me the most was we got the ball back with 2 minutes and 15 seconds at the 10-yard line with 3 timeouts right there before the half. And we got the ball back after half. So we had a chance to go double dip. We're down 3. You got the ball in a heated environment. You got it's a tit for tat game early in the second half, and you get a false start coming out of that. As a play caller, you got to know what 5 plays I'm gonna run. Okay, if we get the first down, we go no huddle. But we at least got to have the plays called in. And we got 3 timeouts. You know you're not gonna stop them. At that point in time, as a play caller, as a head coach, we know we in a hostile environment. We got to go for the kill. We cannot get stops. We basically know we got one little stop in the red zone, but that really wasn't us. That was them just not all the way executing. That right there was the most disappointing thing to me. That let me know a lot about him as a coach and with the personnel he put out in the field. Because if you got a Graham Mertz, you got these weapons, and you practice those things year round. Everybody does 7-on-7, 2-minute drill. We backed up in your own goal line. We got 3 timeouts, 2 minutes. That's the biggest thing I can harp on tonight. 2 minutes, 17-14 going into the half. We have the ball, 90 yards to go, 2 timeouts, 3 timeouts, 2 minutes to go. I don't know how y'all guys feel about that, but that right there let me know the 10 of the game and let me know that he just didn't think that we had enough to be successful. Like, I felt like that right there would have changed the tab. We come out and get 3, come back and get 7 the next drive. We up 7, and now we pushing forward for the rest of the game.
So I'm going to address the Eugene Wilson situation because it was asked about in his presser in just a moment. But I said this at the halftime. I said first half looked great, although we did not push the ball, right, at that for the last 2 minutes there. We did everything right. You get the stop. You got 3 timeouts. Your offense looked, I mean, the first drive of the game, we're like, dude, we can move this ball however we want on this defense. What are we doing here? But then I'm watching it, like he said, these are things that continue to surface as an issue for Billy Napier. It's clock/game management, right? When it's a pressure situation or we've got to move the football, it seems like there's lack of awareness. And again, I'm not trying to sit here and say, hey, we know it all right as fans. We're just watching from experience of what other teams are doing, how other teams look. And it's like, that's not how, like he said, that's you dream of that situation. You get 2 minutes left. You got all your timeouts. You save your timeouts for that exact moment. Go down, put some points on the board, 3 or 7, and then you get the ball back to capitalize again. You should have, you have a first drive, which is scripted, which obviously it's very clear we moved on the football field. You got to have, in my mindset, I'm watching this and I'm going, shouldn't you have 2, 3 scripts, right? 3 scripted drives. Hey, here's what we're going to do when we first come out. If we have an opportunity where we've got the last 2 minutes on the board, here's how we're going to run this. And then come out in the second half, here's what we're also going to do. We're going to throw something at them they haven't even seen yet because we need to score again. We didn't do that. And that's what frustrates me is like, if I can think like that, if my dumb ass can sit here and take a second, like, hey, we need to throw them off their game at least a couple times here. I understand like it may bite us in the ass, but these are the moments we need to try a different little segment here so we can capitalize it, especially being on the road. And even kind of prefaces Dan Mullen. That's what made, look, Dan had his issues, but he also had that ability to understand, like, hey, I'm going into Death Valley. I've got to change the pace up a little bit. I got to put, Brian Kelly, whoever on the sideline at that time was, on their heels and had them second guessing it to take the crowd, to take their secret weapon, which is Death Valley itself, out of the equation. We didn't do that. Not at all. We fueled it. We amplified it. So Terrell is, again, he calls in. He's fantastic. Always he kind of spots on. He sums it up perfectly. And again, like he said, he felt that, hey, the game went pretty well. And that was kind of how the consensus was across the board, that everyone felt happy with, the game went outside of the 700 plus yards on defense allowed. But that was that was the upsetting part. Let's move on to Billy, what he had to say. So Nick Del Toro, great questions as always. Asked like, wait, where the hell? Basically, didn't say it like this, but where the hell is Eugene? And he said it as well, too. And it is very interesting, right? Because you think about it, man. Eugene's getting the ball. He's making plays. Ricky's making some big-time catches. But when when Trevor and Eugene touch the ball, something positive happens, I will say 80% of the time. Sometimes Trevor tries to do too much and gets knocked back. But Eugene Wilson, it's about damn near 90% of the time, homeboy's falling forward for at least 3 to 4 yards. At least. There's 3 guys in front of him. You're like, he's got nowhere to go. And slips through it. I'm like, this is ridiculous. Like, just get in the ball. You know what I mean? Like, and I understand you can't just abuse them, but abuse them and make them respect it. When you've got something that great, force them to respect it, which then will open things up. We have Arlis Bordenham, who's had great time moments, big time moments. Nowhere to be found. Nowhere to be seen. Why isn't the play calling allowing these guys to get open? Why, when I go watch the LSU's offense, I've got a running back coming out to slot, little delayed, little hitch route, wide ass open 3 out of 4 times. I don't know. It's a great play, coach. Why don't we try it? You know what I mean? I know we try to get the ball to Montreal Johnson, 96 times a game. That's our number 1 wide receiver right now, was what it feels like. So those things were still frustrating. And then the play calling was great, but then they were still, I'm starting to call like Billy-esque, where the last play of the game where we run the ball 3 times in a row, then it's 4th and 5, and now the pressure's on, and we have to make a play. We give it to Eugene Wilson on a beautiful slant route, which you could have had that probably 17 times all night long. We throw it to him 4th and 5. He makes his first drop of the season. Not a big deal. Nowhere near. It wasn't the greatest throw either. But look, you're asking these guys to make a bang bang play. It's like if you would have just had them in this rhythm earlier on, he's cold. Damn near sitting on the bench all damn game. Getting a little frustrated. I'm sorry, but he said. But Bailey's response to that was, we try to get Trey involved as much as possible. We try to get him the ball. We call a lot of plays to get him the ball. That was his response. I don't know if that was how true that is. Obviously, he's going to say what he wants to say, but we'll see here. Then they kind of asked, just what was it? What was the overall issue? Was it Jaden Daniels? Was it player? Was it lack of execution? Was it play calling? That was kind of the question of like not containing Jaden Daniels, right? And his response to that was like, look, there was a handful of plays where players could do better. A combination of both play calling and just players not being where they need to be or making too quick of judgments. And look, this is why I said this was the first time that I felt that it seemed as if I felt like, hey, the players aren't executing. And we're going to get into this because, again, where I head next to that is, well, that's still coaching. We're week 10 in. Where's the development, right? Where is the accountability during practice? How are you not practicing these situations to see this happening so you can address it the first 5 days in advance? And so when asked about Austin Armstrong, he kind of hints to that where it's everybody. It's not Armstrong. It's not the players. And then he goes into positional coaches. So I'm going to wait to play that clip before I dive into that a little bit further. But like I said, it was the first time that I felt that I don't know if play calling was an issue. Obviously, everyone kept calling for a QB spy, which some people we were talking about on the show as well. Like, why don't we do more of that? My thing was we should have been doing that week 1. We went up against a quarterback, and damn near every quarterback in college football now has the ability to roll out and get the wheels burning, right? Joe Milton has it, didn't really utilize it that much. Carson Beck didn't need to. He has the arm of a god, so he doesn't need to run around. I mean, he can, but that's not his go-to. But KJ Jefferson did it to us, right? And then obviously Jaden Daniels last night. And we've got Jordan Travis in 2 weeks that did the same thing to us last year. So if we don't just put damn near 15 spies out in the football field, I don't know what the hell we're doing anymore, because just watch it, right? Just watch the tape a little bit and see what you're able to do and how you can adjust from that. But yeah, overall, I mean, his comments were as normal as they usually are. Very to the point. He kind of kept pushing everything off till Monday. So I know our guys asking the questions, they're going to go, hey, did you have a chance to look at this? Which I love because I'm sure they're fed up. They're fed up like us fans. They've been doing a good job, I think, extending the olive branch of how we feel as fans and asking very probing questions. Like, we're all seeing this. Are we missing something? Do we not know what's going on? Why is this continuing to happen? And Billy will finagle his way out of it, as he usually does. But let's get into his comments about Austin Armstrong here. I'm going to play the clip, and then again, it's hard to hear what the question that's being asked. But basically, he goes, Austin Armstrong, not doing well on defense. What's up with that? And then Billy goes, excuse me? Because I don't think he was ready for him just to hit him with the juice, but he did. Here's what he had to say about that.
Handling this struggle of the defense.
Say it one more time.
How's Austin Armstrong kind of handling? What's been his approach?
Yeah, no, I think Austin is. Austin's done a great job leading that group. You know, I think ultimately, I mean, we're approaching 30% of the snaps this year from true freshmen. We're probably playing more young players than anybody in America, and there's some issues that come with that. You know, look, Austin would tell you that he can do his job better. You know, that's what he would tell you. There's nobody who wants to do it more than he does. And look, you know, playing the unit's performance is a reflection of a lot of people, not one guy, right? I know we all like to think in those terms, but it's position coaches, it's analysts, it's GAs, it's the scout offense, it's the head coach, it's the strength coach. I mean, there's a number of people that contribute to our ability to perform on a consistent basis. Austin's the leader over there. He's the coordinator. And we played well at times, and we've been very inconsistent at times. So we need to continue to learn from our experience and continue to grow and improve.
So interesting little side point there, right? He kind of goes and picks apart individual bases, right? Like it's the conditioning coach, it's the GAs, it's the assistants, et cetera, right? Like that started to kind of get a little more granular with it, leading me to believe, could we see a possible termination of one of those positions? Because those guys are pretty much the same from last year. Austin Armstrong's new, so he's going to get the pass, I would believe, for year one for just whatever have you of lack of execution, right? He's going to have that 1 year pass, where other guys who have been here, it's like, look, I'm seeing the same issues with these players that we saw last year. This is going to start falling on you and getting guys prepared. One clip that keeps playing in my head that's we're probably going to see on Twitter timeline for the rest of our live is Wingo just getting absolutely leveled. Not sideswiped, not blindsided, leveled. He initiated a hit and got leveled. Okay, you guys know exactly what I'm talking about. The last play of the game when the LSU scored for their 714 yards for total offense, absolutely leveled, and everyone's going for Mark Hawk and just the strength and conditioning coach. So, look, I think that's a good point. Obviously, Corey Raymond was getting a lot of heat on our show last night as well too. Just the lack of production from the cornerbacks. So. We want to put it on our Austin, and you have to, right? Just like he also said, you have to put on the head coach. It's always going to go back to the top, because if these guys are not doing their job properly, well, Austin, they report to you. So that's where the accountability has to be held. But him also saying, he goes, look, he would say he's got to do a better job. I feel like that was finally like a nice little, like, that's what we wanted to hear. Like, hey, he sucks. He knows he sucks. We're going to get it fixed. We keep saying that as well too, but instead of just saying like, oh no, I think it was not that bad of a game. Like, no, he knows he can do better. We know we can do better. But it's more than just him play calling. And I think that was, again, a small sign that we could see some changes. Somebody asked me last night, do I think anything's going to happen before the end of the season? I don't believe anybody would get fired until the end of the season. I really don't see anything happening, but I expect the day after or week after Florida State, maybe 2 weeks, because Billy kind of moves very methodical. Things are going to start going by the wayside, but it's got to, in my opinion, with how this world functions, it's got to happen sooner rather than later, because that portal is going to open up 3 weeks after that, and you need to be prepared. You need to be ahead of the game going into the portal season, in my opinion. You need to have the coach replaced or an idea who's going to come in. So when you go have conversations with these guys, here's what we're doing. Here's how we're going to execute it. Do you want to be part of this? Yes or no? Then move on. We were way too slow last year. That was a huge criticism. I think that we gave him a pretty low grade in the offseason and how he functioned in the portal, hirings and whatnot. I think he did okay. And then, recruiting started heating up, but the portal was absolutely an atrocious job by Billy Napier and the staff. So if he doesn't do well, that's where, the flames are on right now, but the flames will turn up, because if he thinks he's going to walk into next season with this same team, with the same youth, and be able to execute, people are going to be losing it. Not saying they can't. I'm just letting you know where the pulse is going to be. The leash is going to be short if you don't make any major changes. Not major changes, but changes at least showing us like, okay, he sees the issue, right? You need to give us a sign that you understand the issue at hand here and that we're moving in the right direction. If we don't see that, I don't care how smooth and sweet I can talk. Ain't nobody protecting you, Billy Ballsack. I'll tell you that right now. Ain't nobody's opinion is going to be able to defend you if you can't make a move like that. Last order of business here. Jimbo getting the boot out of old A&M here. I was talking to Holly about it this morning. I go, he's a big Jimbo guy, obviously being in FSU. And I'm like, it just seems like a little bit too late, or just kind of out of nowhere. They just won 51-10 against Mississippi State. But I realized they hadn't beat a ranked team all year long. And this decision obviously was made well before last night. There's kind of murmurs coming out that it happened kind of last week after the close loss of not being able to close out against Ole Miss. Holly compared it to us like losing to Arkansas, just an ugly loss, right? And in your, third, fourth season, I believe, maybe fifth. I don't know anymore. You can't continue to have those losses, right? And they've had, think about this. $76 million in hand going to old Jimbo. The largest in history, fully paid. Unbelievable. And I keep saying this. We want to hold these kids accountable and all this and get frustrated with them. This man just robbed Texas A&M. Highway robbery. Walked in, said, I'll take that. You're not going to do anything. I'm out. That's how that went down with Jimbo Fisher. I can't believe it. But the class in hand here, we got Cam Coleman, who just visited Florida. Right? Now, was there a coinkydink there? Did he see the writing on the wall and started, hey, I'm going to go shop around. I'm not coming to this mess. Now, he's obviously has other options. He's the number 3 wide receiver in the country. So he's got plenty of offers. Auburn is one of them. Clemson, LSU, Alabama. So we're going to be in a dogfight if that's the case. But at least we just did have him for a visit, and we're expected to have him for an official visit come December 8th. So that honestly got me a little more excited. There's a possibility that we could flip that. Dylan Evans, somebody that we've been talking about since damn near January about possibly flipping to Florida. This thing's been hot on the list, and it kind of went to hush-hush, and I wasn't too worried about it because our defensive line class was absolutely stacked. But with Jamonte Waller saying, see you later, alligator, I'm going to old Hugh Freeze in the strippers, Dylan Evans is way more enticing now. standing at 6'4", 260, 4-star recruit, top 50 player in the country. We got to go all in now. The door is wide open for business. Go get it back. You replace Javonte Waller, Dylan Evans. All is forgiven. Nobody's going to remember. And you land Cam Coleman, and you don't get Jeremiah Smith. I promise you, we'll all be happy. Nobody's going to be upset with that. So 2 big pickups there. They've got another 5-star Terry Busey and Dominic McKinley, defensive lineman and cornerback. I don't know how they stand currently. Again, I don't think everybody's going to just dip out. That's not what I'm saying. But you've got 2 guys who I just mentioned that have already been shopping around and are already doing official visits. And now you've got something else kind of pressing that could push them out if they weren't already headed out, right? So wild to think, right? Just what was it, 2 years, last year? Yeah, the number 1 recruit, or 2 years ago, the number 1 recruiting class, the greatest recruiting class of all time. And now you're gone 2 years later. So it's a dog-eat-dog world out there, ladies and gentlemen. It is a dog-eat-dog world as Jimbo takes a fall. But I just can't believe the fact that he's getting the $76 million. I see everybody like on 3 tweeting out all the recruits that are available and who's a good go-getter. This reminds me of my work. I work at a sales company. When somebody gets fired, immediately they walk out the door, right? And then if they're not on your team and my manager, my team, I go, hey, go get their stuff. Go get their deals. Hey, right? Like, it's immediately just a savage fest. Like, we go into their stuff because they're not there anymore, right? And we start calling it. Boom, 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 boom. It's an easy deal. It's a laydown is what we call it, right? So that's kind of what this is. It's like, hey, let me just go hop in real quick and try to see if I can rip one out of Jimbo Fisher's hands, out of Texas A&M's claws while they're down and out, right? It's a very savage move, but it's, like I said, it's a dog-eat-dog world. You got, hey, either eat or be eaten. And that's kind of where the situation is with Jimbo Fisher right now. So, shocking to me. I really was not expecting to see that. People were even kind of confused about it because they were tweeting about it saying, if this is true, like nobody knew whether or not they wanted to believe it or not, but more sources are coming out and saying that it is true. It still doesn't feel real yet, but A&M, man, a big blow. We'll see what happens from here. They're talking about top candidates already. I saw a couple of names like Dan Lanning, Mike Norvell, a few others. I can't remember who they were, but if they go get Dan Lanning from Oregon, unbelievable. If they go get Dan Lanning from Oregon, I just talked about this last night. They go get Dan Lanning from Oregon. Florida is going to be even hotter on Billy Napier because if they can go get Dan Lanning from Oregon, they can rip him out with the success that he's having in Oregon. Why couldn't we do that? Right? That's going to be the question at hand. So we'll definitely be keeping an eye on Jimbo getting the can there with the Texas A&M. So let me know in the comments below, boys and girls, how you feel about Gator Nation, where you feel where we're at right now, how you feel about Austin Armstrong, maybe how you feel about the Jimbo Fisher situation. I want to hear from you guys. Be sure to smash the like button, subscribe. We just broke 18,000. Now the next stop is 19,000. So whatever you guys can do to help us get there, it's much appreciated. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.